Hello, hey, it's Brendan from WP Speedfix. In this video, we're going to talk about speeding up WordPress for logged in user sessions. So this is a common problem for sites that are running WooCommerce and membership sites. So let's run through some notes. Let's talk about the problem so you understand what the problem is we're trying to fix here. So by default, logged in users in WordPress bypass all the page caching. So their sessions are not cached, which means that they are typically 2 to 5 times slower than regular cached sessions for logged out users. So generally the problem is the time to first byte is super high for logged in users. Every page has to be built from scratch. So that's not great because the logged in users are probably your most engaged visitors or customers. So on WooCommerce, they're people, if they're logged in, they're looking to buy. And then if you have a membership site, they are people who've bought your membership product or they're actively engaged with your site. So this is an important problem to solve, and one that kind of goes under the radar. It's kind of hidden. It does. Let's talk about logged in user experience for administrators. So one problem we also see is sites that have a lot of active editing going on. A lot of changes where admins are logged in all the time making edits and changes. Those sessions also contribute to core web vital scores, and if you have a lot of staff doing that and their sessions are very slow, then your core web vitals numbers are not going to look great. We've also seen this issue where staff are logged in, staff in a call center are logged in and taking orders for customers and putting them through the WooCommerce site as well, so that can be a problem. So first up, probably it's not even in the notes here, but if you have admin users spending a lot of time on the site, having them use a browser other than Chrome or something that's not Chrome based, like Safari or Firefox, will help somewhat, as Google doesn't pull the core vitals data from those browsers. So that's one way to work around that problem. But let's talk about the logged in users. What we're really talking about is customers or public visitors logged into the site. So first step is to turn on caching for those users. So I'll show you here. I've got WP Rocket. That's what we use on our WP Speedfix site. So here in WP Rocket, it's not turned on by default. So you go to settings, WP Rocket and add-ons, and you'll see here there's a section for user cache. So we don't have users logged into this site. We use a different system for customer orders, but it's just a simple case of turning it on like that. One caveat here, and we have in the notes, we'll talk about in a minute, is using Query Monitor plugin. So if you have the Query Monitor plugin installed and the caching turned on, it won't actually work because Query Monitor disables that caching. So if you're using Query Monitor, make sure it's disabled when you're not doing any troubleshooting. Otherwise, that caching is not going to work. So I'll turn that off because we had that on already. So WP Rocket does it easily. So does Flying Press. Flying Press is a little bit different. That's the other plugin we typically recommend for speed, and you can cache by types of users on that one. I won't give you kind of a demo here. You can go look it up on the Flying Press website, so flyingpress.net. If you're using a managed host, so different managed hosts manage caching differently. So they do caching at the server layer. Probably easiest way to solve that problem is to log a ticket with their support and ask how to do that. It's probably on their knowledge base as well. But if you have a managed host, there's going to be a different solution here. Having one of these plugins isn't going to fix it out of the box because their server does the caching at the server level or server layer. So that's turning it on. So, that's step one, is turn on caching for logged in users. Different plugins will have different settings. If you're using Lightspeed, there'll be a setting in there for logged in users as well. So that gets us started. That's kind of the baseline. So the next problem we have is those pages still aren't cached by default. They're not cached until the user visits them. So the typical WooCommerce user or membership site user is logging in. The pages won't be in the cache from the last time they logged in because they probably haven't logged in for a while or at least a week. So their sessions are still going to be slow generally. The caching will only speed up the second time they visit the page, not the first time. So we've still got this problem where we need to build the pages in advance, or we need to build the pages so they're in the cache. So the next kind of tactic we have there is to use just-in-time preloading and speculative preloading. So these are two different types of preloading. So what I'll do, I'll show you this website. Okay, so this kind of explains how just-in-time preloading works. So there is a gap between hovering over a link and clicking the link in which the page can be loaded. So you can see here, if I hover over it, there's nearly half a second of time for the browser to start loading the page. So we can use just-in-time preloading to do this. So when a user is on a website, they're kind of hovering over menu items, we can use just-in-time preloading to tell the browser to go and get that page, which then builds it in the cache. So that is a simple technique to speed up the cache efficiency, I guess you could call it, for logged in users. So both WP Rocket and Flying Pages have this built in. So in WP Rocket, it's here, I think, under preload, and it's called enable link preloading. It does that same thing as that instant.page code. We actually use Flying Pages plugin separately. They have a free plugin that does it. So this one is a bit different and it's more aggressive. So it does the preload over hover, but what it also does as well, it will start to background load every single link on the page as well. So you can see here, we've set it to delay. So wait 3 seconds after the page is loaded to start doing that, and then load 1 page a second. Any more than this will typically start to overload the hosting. So you want to avoid doing this too much. Just by having this by default, it's going to increase the load on the hosting. So we want to use the safest settings possible. If you have a WooCommerce site, you might want to exclude some of the pages here. You'll see by default it's excluded some like checkout and add to cart, but maybe you want to exclude things like orders pages or the My Account section so it doesn't go loading up a whole bunch of stuff that's not likely to be clicked. But that's just-in-time preloading. Speculative preloading is something else. It's similar but different. So it's now built into WordPress 6.8. And there's also a separate plugin as well if you don't have the latest version of WordPress. But it's under the reading settings here, so general reading, and you'll see here there's prefetch and pre-render. So you need to be careful with these settings. So prefetch does something similar to the just-in-time preloading. What it will do is go and load that page, so it's cached, but it'll also load all the assets from that page. So it's another step above. It's not just loading the HTML file, it's loading all the assets of that page. So that means all the images, JavaScript, CSS is also cached on the browser. So the page has been downloaded and cached on the browser, so it'll be much faster. So it's the next level up over the top of just-in-time preloading. You want to avoid pre-render. So what pre-render does, it actually renders the whole page. So it fires the JavaScript. So it's essentially like loading all the pages in a hidden tab. If you enable that, it's going to fire the analytics code, the marketing code, all sorts of tracking code, everything on that page essentially. It's like the user has loaded that page. So you probably want to avoid pre-render in 99% of cases because it's going to mess up your site big time and mess up your stats. So these are the safe but aggressive settings we use. So we use prefetch, so we're not rendering the page, and we're using eager, which is quite aggressive. So anywhere we're coming near a link, essentially, it's loading that page. So that will prime the cache. So it'll tell WordPress to go and cache the page. So it's more likely that the page is cached ready for the user. So we resolve that time to first byte issue. But it's also, speculative loading is downloading the whole page to the browser. So it's even the next level above from that in terms of speed optimization. So that's how we kind of trick the browser into loading the pages in advance. So I think that covers that. And now let's talk about the page generation time. So what we're doing here with the just-in-time preloading is actually telling the server to go and load the pages or cache the pages and download them to the browser. What we want to do is also speed up the generation of those pages. So typically a WordPress page will take anywhere from 1 to 5 seconds to generate. Sometimes longer if you've got problems or a heavy site, particularly with a WooCommerce site. So let's talk about some ways to speed that up. So number one is speed up the database. So 2 things to do here. There's a whole bunch of stuff here, and I'll link you over to this article here. We have a whole article on our website about speeding up the database. But there's 2 main things to do here. So one is get object caching working. So object caching is a type of database caching. So the object caching will speed up how quickly things can be read from the database. The InnoDB storage engines generally speeds up how quickly things can be written to the database. So there's a whole section here on this page about it. If I scroll down to the bottom. So basically, WordPress has 2 database formats. So one is the older MyISAM, the newer one is InnoDB. So you'll see here there's kind of a graphical representation here of the main difference from a performance perspective. So with the older tables, so if you have an old WordPress site, you might have some of the older format tables. So with this older table, when something's writing to a database table, so think about a database table as a sheet in an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet. When something's writing to it, the whole sheet is locked, so nothing else can be written to it. So the writes queue up in a row, so only one can happen at a time. With the newer format, InnoDB, and it's not that new, it's several years old, only the row that's been written to in the table is locked. So multiple writes can happen at a time to a single table. So That speeds things up substantially because a lot of writes can be happening simultaneously. That basically speeds up the page generation time. So it makes a huge difference on a busy site if you have MySum tables converting to InnoDB. So that'll make a big difference. I'll add another one here. It's actually not in here. So I'd say also use high performance auto storage. So high performance auto storage for WooCommerce. So in one of the recent WooCommerce releases, they changed the way the database works. So previously, WooCommerce was kind of hacked into WordPress. It used the same database table as pages and posts. So what this new update does is create new database tables for the WooCommerce specific stuff. So orders, customers, anything to do with e-commerce. So again, as you can imagine, that dramatically speeds things up because those tables are optimized for WooCommerce stuff. So things like adding to the cart, clicking around the back end like as a customer will be faster. So converting to high performance auto storage is a big deal in terms of performance. So it'll speed up the logged in sessions, but also speed up anything related to WooCommerce, like orders or e-commerce stuff on WooCommerce. So that's well worth doing as well. I won't go into that too much. It's a pretty simple process to convert. There's a big article on the WooCommerce site on how to do that. Next one. So PHP is the programming language WordPress runs on. So using the highest version that your site supports will speed things up. So every version of PHP is faster than the last one. So 8.4 is the current version at the time we're recording this video. So if you're running version 7.4 or 8.0, if you can run 8.4, then you'll get a speed boost. Now keep in mind that all your plugins, custom code and theme have to be compatible with that. So it doesn't, just because your hosting supports it doesn't mean the site supports it. So there's several steps there. A lot of hosts have testing tools built in to test compatibility. That'll capture like 90-95% of compatibility issues. So just keep in mind that changing the version is a big deal. So it's not just something you can flick a switch and it works. You need to test it and make sure it's not breaking anything. But using a higher version of PHP will speed up that page generation time, as will fixing PHP errors. So PHP errors and any other errors that are happening under the bonnet, they typically happen because of PHP version issue. So quite often you've got a higher PHP version than your site or a plugin supports. So the easiest way to troubleshoot for those is this plugin called Query Monitor, which we mentioned before. And if I just search Query Monitor plugin, you'll see here it's free. And what it does, it adds this browser kind of section in the admin bar in the browser, and it will show you the warnings and errors and any notices that appear when a page is being loaded or generated. So basically fixing the warnings and errors in there will make things faster. So you can see here this number, it'll show these numbers across the top here. So this one here is the page generation time. This is how much memory the page used when it was generating. This is the amount of time it took to query the database, and this is the number of database queries. So if these numbers are really high, if one of them's high, these database numbers are high, then you've got a database issue. Typically, if this number is high here, the page generation time, you've got some sort of PHP thing going on. So it might be errors. It might be, it's a heavy page, it has heavy queries. You might have a plugin that's making it do a lot of work. But basically, this plugin will help you uncover issues with performance or issues that are affecting performance. So I'll leave you with that one. That one's a whole video in itself. This is another PHP one. So you can optimize PHP. So these are the optimized PHP settings, and I'll put this in the description. These are the optimized PHP settings we use that squeeze more juice out of the opcode caching for PHP. So these are reliable. We've used them on hundreds of sites. So it'll basically speed up how quickly a page is generated. So I won't get into how you can add those settings here into your PHP because it's different depending on your host, but you can get a developer to do that and it'll squeeze more performance out of your PHP. Okay, next one, use server-based WP cron jobs. So instead of using the built-in WordPress cron, so cron is a scheduled job that runs in the background that does a whole bunch of WordPress stuff under the bonnet. So if you're not using server-based crons, basically the cron job will run 1 in every 5 or 10 page loads. So for logged in users, that can make their page load time be something like 20 or 30 seconds, depending on how long the cron job runs. So using a server-based cron will speed up their sessions. So again, this is kind of developer level stuff. I won't go into the details here, but this is something, ask your developer, it's quite technical. So, but it is something to add on the checklist. This one, you should already be doing this. If you're watching this video, you should already have a content delivery network. We recommend Cloudflare. Ideally, use edge caching with your CDN. So Cloudflare, that's called APO. It's also generally called edge caching. So that means basically the entire page is hosted on Cloudflare and served up by Cloudflare. Now, when a user is logged in, it bypasses that edge caching. So the page is served up by the hosting. But the idea behind this recommendation is you're moving the workload off the hosting onto Cloudflare. So it frees up your web hosting to do only the things the web hosting can. So that saves server resources and allows the hosting to focus on only a smaller number of tasks, and Cloudflare can do a lot of the work for general user stuff and logged out sessions. So Cloudflare APO is only $5 a month, so it's dirt cheap. It's also available on the $20 a month plan as well, or it's $25 a month, depending on whether you go with monthly or yearly billing, but it's well worth it and will make a huge difference to performance in general, not just for logged in users. So that's that. We talked about this before. If you've got the Query Monitor plugin enabled, it will actually disable this logged in caching. So when you finish using it, disable it. Very simple. What else? Do the usual speed optimization. So if you're not passing Core Web Vitals, generally speaking, for logged out users, then that's a problem. So a general speed optimization will fix or improve the speed for everyone. So logged in and logged out users. If you want to know how your Core Web Vitals are doing, this page here on our website will give you a free Core Web Vitals report. So just stick in your URL there, hit the generate report. It takes 60, 90 seconds, and you'll get a report of how your site's doing right now. This video here has a breakdown of how to read that report. So in particular, you want to look at the time to first byte section. So if we do it here for an example site, this is a membership site that does have some speed problems. So we'll just let that load for a couple of seconds. So this one this is a membership site, so there's a lot of logged in users. It has some problems right now we're working through, but you'll see here, so the speed isn't great. So I'll just make this April 2025, so that's last month. So you see here, ideally these need to be 75% or more green to be in the passing zone. There's some work here, and we do have some CLS issues here. But if we click over the time to first byte, we'll see that there are some problems here. So this is because it's a membership site. So a lot of the sessions are not cached. So when we see a report like this where the green is pretty small and the red and yellow, red and orange are quite big, that usually indicates a technical problem. There's a discrete or specific problem we have to solve. So this one here is a work in progress at the moment, and this is the problem to solve, the logged in user session speed. But this report will give you a quick overview of how you're doing. So generally improving the speed overall will improve the logged in user speed. If you want to look at that speed in more detail, this is our tool Vital Signs Tracker. So I'll run the same report on the site last 28 days. So we have the ability to track logged in versus logged out user speed. And if I scroll down here to the bottom, you'll see I've got the list of pages and it's segmented out. So these are logged in users. You can see the time to first byte is horrible, and logged out users, actually the speed is okay. So it's the logged in users generally that are pulling us down and need some work. There are some issues here, like the My Account page is slow. There's also an issue with query strings on paid traffic. So I think I have that in the notes here. Be mindful of query strings and paid traffic. So that also blows up the time to first byte. So query strings by default will bypass all caching. So you need to ignore whatever custom query strings you're using on your Google Ads traffic. So you can see that's a problem with this site here. So ad traffic was getting a 3.6 second time to first byte. So that's horrible speed for page traffic. So that needs to be fixed. Okay, so that's speed stuff. Do a plugin audit. So less plugins is better. So any plugins or code that you have on the site, third-party code, just do a quick audit. Get rid of anything that you're not using. Very straightforward. Every plugin adds code. Every piece of JavaScript adds bloat. So if you're not using it, get rid of it. Very simple. This is a common one we see as well. So make sure all the menu links are pointing to the right URL. So sometimes we see menu links pointing to HTTP, so not HTTPS, or they're not using the correct www or no www, or they don't have a / on the end of the URL. So the problem with this is when someone goes to the menu system, the site has to redirect them to the right page. So that adds 1 to 3 seconds of perceived load time into that user session. So that's a common problem that will be missed in speed test tools. but it is one we see all the time, that the menu's using a mix of www and no www, or they don't have / on the end of some of the URLs, so it makes things slow. Okay, just a few more. Okay, fixing all of 404 errors. Common problem. So 404s are bad for speed and bad for SEO. So just running some sort of SEO audit tool over your site, that'll pick up all the 404 errors. So particularly for logged in users, because their sessions are already going to be a little bit slower by default, 404s are even going to be worse for them. So just fixing any of those, particularly if they're site-wide. So if there's an error or a 404 coming from the footer or the header, or the page template, that's going to slow down every single page on the site. So fixing that is an easy win across the board. So it's good for speed, good for SEO, just good in general for users. So typically a 404 error somewhere in the template or somewhere that's site-wide can add anywhere from 1 to 5 seconds into the page load. It's because the browser has to kind of figure out what to do. It gets to a 404 and then it has to kind of manage that error and work around it. So different devices and different browsers will react differently. So some will be fine, particularly on desktop and Chrome, that'll be okay. But on mobile devices, that's going to struggle, and it's going to present as a weird kind of delay or lag. So very simple, fixing 404 errors. Okay, just a couple more. Making sure your host supports HTTP 3 protocol. That'll speed up how quickly browsers can connect to the hosting, and it will speed up how quickly it can download stuff from the hosting, and making sure you've got something called HSTS enabled. We have a video somewhere about how to enable that in Cloudflare. So that is a security header that just speeds up a few things around the first connection to the site. But those are kind of speed up those affect the speed at which stuff can be downloaded from the hosting. So those are kind of simple checkboxes. They won't make or break things, but it will add a little bit of speed to everybody, not just logged in users. We talked about this, being mindful of query strings. And let's talk about some things that don't work that are usually recommended. Increasing PHP memory, this won't do anything at all. It will only do something if you're getting errors about PHP memory, which you would see if you are, pages just wouldn't load. Minifying CSS and JavaScript does nothing for speed. It does nothing for logged in users. So it's a waste of time. It actually can make things slower. It can break caching in some circumstances. So it's a waste of time. And messing with the WordPress heartbeat. This is a nonsense recommendation that doesn't do anything. It's such a minor optimization. It's a waste of time. So this doesn't do anything either and won't solve your problem. So these three are just wasting time. PHP memory, if you're getting memory errors, yes, it will do something. Otherwise, more memory is not going to make a difference. And then, we talked about this tracking logged in user speed at with Vital Signs Tracker. So you can see that on our website if you want to use that. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you want more help, there's a few ways we can help you. So there's free tools on our website. Free SEO audit. This will pick up 404 errors. Core Vitals report I showed you. Our site speed tool, that'll give you AI-based recommendations on how to speed up your site. All these tools take about 90 seconds to run, and there's no opt-in required. If you want help, go to the homepage. If you want paid help, submit a free audit request here, and one of the team will have a look at your site and tell you what we can do to fix it, if we can fix it, and the service we recommend. So that's it for this video. If you need anything else or have any questions, just post in the comments below. Cheers.